So for example, if someone has given me a task, hey, please set up a Kafka for my development environment. So in development environment, how do you do? So the thing is, in development environment, we are going to set up a Kafka as a single node installation. It means in our Kafka cluster, only one Kafka broker is going to be installed. For development environment, that is fine. And this is the basic setup. Okay, so today what we are going to do is we are going to take a Linux server, and inside that Linux server, we are going to install Confluent Kafka 6.2 version, which is the latest version. So here we are going to install Kafka 6.2, not 6.1, because 6.2 it came recently into the market, very latest version. So let's go with that. Okay. All right. This is the documentation. And before going to the documentation, let me switch on my Linux operating system. Like in my Windows machine, to configure a Linux, first of all, I have installed a VMware Workstation operating system. VMware Workstation Professional. And inside this VMware, I have installed Linux operating system. So this VMware software and then Linux ISO image, everything I will provide you as a Google Drive link. Okay. At the end of the session, I will show you how you can install VMware, how to download Linux operating system, how to install Linux in the VM, and how to install Kafka. Everything I will show you. So I'm powering it on. So now my Linux operating system is getting started. Let's wait for a few minutes. See, it is asking me the log. So I'm logging as a root user. So this is my operating system. I am the one who installed it. I know what is my root user password. So I'm logging as a root user. I hope you know what is my root user in the Linux, right? Now my operating system, my Linux operating system is on. Now I have to take the SSH. To take the SSH, we need to have the host name or we need to have the IP address. So let's have the IP address. We'll take the SSH with the IP address. So if I type the command called ifconfig, we will get the IP address, which is 192.168.136.128. Now to take the SSH, I will open MindMajix tab. Now I will click on session. I will click on SSH. I will go 192.168.136.128. Perfect. When I click OK, now it is asking me login as. I will log in as root user because I know the root password and I'm entering the password. Perfect. See, this is my Linux operating system. If I do uname, so this is my Linux operating system, which we have switched on from the VMware. So before going to discuss further, first of all, let me do some cleanup because already Kafka is there. So let me do some cleanup. Let me make it as a fresh machine. Now there is nothing. It's a fresh machine. Now let's start with the installation. So I have a Linux operating system and this is my Linux operating system. Now I want to install Kafka as a single node in this machine. So the procedure would be very simple. In this machine, we need to download Kafka software and then we need to start Zookeeper and then we need to start Kafka. That's it. It's only 3 steps. So the thing is, before installing Kafka, we have to check some prerequisites. The thing is, when we try to install any software in the real-time servers, definitely we need to check the prerequisites, right? So same like to install Kafka, there are around 5 prerequisites, and let's check all those things. The first thing is you need to have Linux 6 or Linux 7 operating system, right? So the thing is, right now, we have the operating system, and in order to check what is the version of my Linux operating system, there is a command called cat etc red hat release. So I have installed Red Hat Linux operating system. So this file will be there. If I hit enter, it says Red Hat Enterprise Server 7.3. Means my Linux is a Linux 7 version, which is perfectly fine. Now let's come to the second one, the RAM and hard disk. In your Linux operating system, you need to have minimum 6 GB and 500 GB of hard disk, right? So real time, definitely we go with the 200 GB hard disk or 300 GB of hard disk, so which is fine. So, but to install Content Kafka 6.2, minimum 6 GB is more than enough. And the hard disk is going to be 500 GB. But in the real time, definitely we use terabytes of hard disk in Kafka, because the purpose of Kafka is it has to store, a really huge, tremendous volumes of data. So it will having, around 2 TB, 3 TB, 10 TB hard disk also. But here in our mission, if I want to check the RAM size, there is a command called free minus h. If I hit this, the memory, you see, right now there is a 2 GB RAM in my virtual machine. This is my Linux operating system. I have given 2 GB RAM, and out of 2 GB, 1.5 GB is free. So for our testing purpose, for our training purpose, this is more than enough. And if you want to see the hard disk size, if I do df minus h, and it is a 20 GB hard disk. If you see this root file system, total thing is 20 GB, 18 GB. Out of 18 GB, 15 GB is free. So we are not going to handle a tremendous volumes of data, because there is no real-time data in our mission, right? So which is fine. 84% is, oh sorry, out of 18 GB, 15 GB is used, and 2.9 GB is available. So this is more than enough for us, because we don't put any real-time data. We're going to put our test images only, which is perfectly fine. All right, fine. And there should be something called a specific service account, a specific user account for Kafka. For example, in this case, I'm taking a user called Kafka, right? But in our case, instead of Kafka, we'll go something called a user called Ratnakar, because the thing is, in my mission, I want to start my Kafka as a user called Ratna, right? So what I will do is I will create a user called Ratna, and because I have decided that my Kafka should run as a Ratna, so you can use any user. It's absolutely no doubt at all. There is no specific rule that Kafka should run only with this user, then only it will work. No, there is no such kind of rule in Kafka. You can use any user. So in this case, I am using some user called Ratna. Okay. So first of all, if I want to check that particular user is there or not, if I do ID space Ratna, see that particular user where you want to run Kafka, that user is not there. So first of all, we have to make sure that particular user is there. So in the real time, generally we don't have the root user access. So what we'll do is we'll create a request. We'll open a request to Unix team so that they will create the user on our behalf, and we can get the sudo access for that. But in this case, this is our operating system, and we have the root user privileges, and we know how to create the user. So this is the command user add, and then the username, so that that particular user will be added. For example, if I say user add, and then what is the username I want to add? Ratna. See, no errors. If I do Ratna, see, now that particular user is there. Previously, before executing this command, when I say ID Ratna, that user is not there. But now I can see that particular user is there. Okay. Now switch to Ratna user using su minus Ratna, so that you will be switched as Ratna user. See, who am I? So I am logged in as a Ratna user now. Now I am not a root. I am logged. I have logged in as a Ratna. If I do pwd, and I am in the home directory of Ratna. Now the fourth prerequisite is we need to have a specific file system, one for Zookeeper and one for Kafka. The thing is, when we want to install Kafka, So we need to have Zookeeper and then Kafka. Kafka cluster is combination of both Zookeeper and then Kafka. This one we have already discussed in the previous session in our technical introduction session 2 part, right? Without Zookeeper, Kafka cannot run. So the thing is, when you want to install Kafka in a single node, in one machine, in one node, you need to have Zookeeper and Kafka running on the same machine. So the thing is, for Zookeeper, we need to have one file system, and for Kafka, we need to have another file system. So in this case, what I did is, so I created a separate directory called data. Under root directory, I have created a, okay, let me do one thing. Let me delete and let me recreate. Okay, let me go to user, cd slash, there is a directory called data. Where is that? Okay, see, here it is. So let me remove it. Remove rm minus rf data, rm minus rf data. What is there? I don't need this. Perfect. Now let's create a separate file system called slash data slash zk and slash data slash kafka. Slash data slash zk is for Zookeeper and slash data slash kafka is for Kafka file system. So to create the file system, again, we need to have the root user access, right? So in the real time, generally, we have to submit a request to Unix team so that they will create the file system and they will allot some space to that. But in this case, I'm going to create myself. So mkdir -p slash data. So first of all, Zookeeper file system slash Zookeeper. And then I'm going to create another directory, another file system for Kafka. So mkdir -p slash data slash Kafka. It means under data directory, now data directory is created. Under data directory, there are two subdirectories. One is ZK, one is Kafka. ZK is to hold the Zookeeper related data. Kafka is to hold the Kafka messages. For example, if any developer, if any client connected to Kafka and published any message to our Kafka cluster, that message will be physically stored in this file system. That is the reason we need to have this particular file system. For example, if I do df minus h now, sorry, if I go to cd slash and if I do ls minus lrt, now see there is a file system called data, and if I do ll slash data, under slash data there are two directories, Kafka directory and then Zookeeper directory. But the problem is the data directory is having root permission, right? But this data directory is meant for our Kafka related stuff, right? The thing is we need to change the ownership of this particular directory as our Kafka service account. The thing is in this case we have already decided Ratna is going to be our Kafka service account, which we have created here, right? So here we have to change the permission of slash data to Ratna, because the user Ratna, he should have the permission to access this particular file system. When it is having root file system, so your Ratna user cannot access this file system. So let me change the ownership also. So chown as a root user, chown -r, and then Ratna is the user and Ratna is a member in Ratna group, and then give your data. It means for the data directory, the ownership is going to be changed from root to Ratna, and then inside the data directory, all the subdirectories will also get the same permission because we are giving -r here. Hit enter. Now see cd slash ls minus lrt. Now see the data file system, now permission has been changed to Ratna. It means Ratna user can access these file systems now, right? And also if I go to data, inside this data, see the Zookeeper directory and Kafka directory is also having the permissions of Ratna and Ratna. Perfect. Now in the file systems also, we are good. But in the real time, we have to make sure this Kafka file system should have really high memory, high space, around, depends on your application requirement. For example, your Kafka is going to hold really huge, tremendous volumes of data. So a lot of 1 TB of data to 2 TB of data. So that is the thing we have to take care. But in this case, if I do df-h slash data slash Kafka, Kafka is having how much size? It is just more than root file system only. So which is having 2.9 GB, which is more than enough in our test cases. But in the real time, you have to make sure there should be enough data. This is the fifth requirement. Now, see, if you see here, a file system minimum 100 to 300 GB. You need to have this. Perfect. Now we can start with the installation procedure. Okay. So before starting the installation procedure, let me explain you what we are going to do exactly here. The thing is, installing Kafka, I mean, for a successful Kafka run in your machine, we need to do three steps, only three steps. So when you do this below three steps, that's it. Your Kafka will be up and running. The first step is you need to have Java 1.8. This is minimum. So because without Java, Kafka cannot run. Because we already know Java is already developed on, Kafka is already developed on Java and Scala languages, right? So without Java, Kafka cannot run. So first thing is you need to have Java associated for your service account. We need to have Java 1.8 installed in your Linux machine for that particular service account. And then the second step is Kafka installation. This Kafka installation will include two things. Number one, Zookeeper setup, and then final setup is Kafka setup and start. So when you do this, step number one, and then step number 2.a, step number 2.b. When you do all these three steps, it means you have successfully started Kafka, and Kafka is successfully running as a single node server in your server. Okay. So and here are the steps. So first of all, so here Java 1.8 I have given minimum, but now the latest Java version is JDK 16.01. Okay. So first of all, before installing this, before setting Java for your service account Ratna, first of all, let me switch to Ratna user account. So su-ratna, and if I do Java minus version, Java version command, right now see Java command is not found for your Ratna. It means Java is not at all installed for Ratna. Ratna user not able to identify what Java component is it has to use because it's really a fresh machine, nothing is there. So first of all, we have to set the Java, right? So to set the Java, the thing is we have to, so this is the URL to download the Java. So let me open this. So I'm clicking on this URL. So it will redirect me to Oracle website because now Java is maintained by Oracle. See, Java SE6 we are using. Now there is something called JDK download in this machine in here, right? Just click this so that it will redirect you another page. Here you can see Java SE development kit 16.0.2. So we are using a Linux operating system, right? So we have to download appropriate package. Here we are using Linux ARM, Linux ARM64, Linux Debian package, Linux RPM package, Linux 64 compressed archive, Mac operating system, Windows operating system, all the operating system Java you can see. But here we need to have this one, Linux 64 compressed archive, a tar file we need to have, right? So just click on this. So that, and then click this box and then click on download Java JDK 16.2 so that JDK will start installing. The thing is, initially, it will ask for the login. Like for example, I have already logged into my Oracle website. By default, at the back end, it will take my Gmail account and my credentials so that it is getting downloaded. But you don't have any account with the Oracle, right? First of all, it will ask you, first of all, please sign up with the Oracle. So you just have to sign up and you have to fill some details like your name, email ID, mobile number, something like that. And then you have to sign in. So automatically it will start downloading. So that is the only thing you will ask. But in my case, I have already logged into Oracle website. That is the reason it is straight away it is downloading this. So right now I'm canceling this because in my system I have already there. So in my Windows machine, if I go to F drive, in the F drive there is a Java directory. Inside Java directory, you see here JDK 16.1 I have already there. Now the thing is I have to get this software into my Linux operating system, because I need to install in my Linux operating system, right? To get that software in the mobile system, what I will do is there is something called sessions here. No, not sessions. There is something called SFTP here. Click this and then get it to some location. Here I'm getting this software into home location of Ratna user, which is /home/Ratna. Click enter. So this is the home directory of your Ratna user. For example, if I do cd enter here, now see I am in the path of home Ratna directory. If I do ls minus lrt, right now there is nothing, right? Now I will upload my file into this particular file through this SFTP option in MindMajix. So I will click on this upload button, and then I will go to F drive, Java directory. This is the software. This is the Java 16 version. Click open. So that, see, it is now uploading. You see the progress here. So when you see 100%, it means your Java will be uploaded. So let's represent that. Fine. 100% completed. Now I can see the entry here. And also, if I do ls minus lrt here, see, now I can see the thing. But the problem is it is having root ownership, right? Let's change the, no, I think that is fine. Let's leave it like this. I think we can extract. Fine. We have the software available now in our Linux operating system. Now, after downloading the software, what we have to do is we have to gunzip the software, right? Here you see the extension, it is a gunzip file. Now I'm directly untarring it using a command called tar minus xzbf, and then your file name, hit enter, so that a separate directory called jdk1601 will be created, and inside this directory all Java binaries will be created. Now if I do ls minus lrt, now see there is a directory called jdk1601 has been created. Now if you see the ownership, Ratna is having the ownership, which is perfectly all right. Now you this file is no more needed. This tar file is no more needed. You can delete it. Enter. Yes, I want to delete it. Perfect. It's now deleted. Now we have only Java directory. So now when we extract it, it means Java has been successfully installed. Java installation is done. But the thing is, we have to configure this Java to be understandable, to be readable by my user called Ratna. Although Java is installed, if I do Java minus version, still it is saying Java command not found. Because although you have installed Java successfully, but you have not configured Java in a proper way, and that should be recognized by your user called Ratna. Ratna user not able to recognize where are your Java binaries. So we have to set that. When you set that, that's it. Your Java part is done. Now the thing is, so we have to open the bash profile of Ratna user, and then we have to set the path like this, so that every time when you log into Ratna user, this bash profile will be loaded, and then your Java binaries will be identified. For example, if I do ls minus lart, there is a bash profile for Ratna user. Like if I open bash profile, perfect. So in the path, right, what I will do is I will just give this thing, copy, and so I will remove this. See, I am exporting my Java path. So my Java is in home. Okay, it is in not in home Kafka. It is installed in home Ratna, right? So we have to make sure the user path. In Ratna, there is a person called there is a directory called JDK1601. Inside this directory, there is a bin directory, and inside this bin directory, there is the path. Now save the file. Now what we have to do is we have to source this file. Source means whatever the content that is there in this bash profile, that will be executed once. So right now I am not sourcing. Before sourcing, if I do Java minus version, which is still command not found, but now I am sourcing it. Source dot bash profile, so that whatever the content you have uploaded in this thing, that will be sourced. Now see, Java minus version. Perfect. Now see, Java command is working because we have given the path, Java installation path in our bash profile, and then you have sourced your bash profile, so that now this Ratna user will know, okay, this is my Java. Now Java is executable with your Ratna user. For example, every time if I switch to Ratna user, by default this bash profile will be loaded and this Java path will be set, and your Ratna user will identify the Java. For example, again I'm switching to root user. Now if I do Java minus version, see, Java is not identified by root user because in the root user bash profile, we have not set the Java path. So root user doesn't know. So whenever root user loaded, it has loaded the bash profile of root user. But in the bash profile of root user, there is no details we have given for Java. So it is not working. But if I switch to Ratna user, when we are executing hyphen symbol here, it means the bash profile and bash RC both will be loaded. So whatever the things you have given, whatever the path you have exported in the bash profile, that will be automatically loaded. For example, if I hit enter, oh, hyphen mistake, RATNA. Right. Now, if I do Java hyphen version, see, but with Ratna user, my Java is working because I have set the bash profile in a proper way for that. Done. Perfect. Now Java is done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now after installing Java, now we are jumping into main thing, which is Kafka installation. Kafka installation. Kafka installation consists of two things. Number one, Zookeeper setup, and then Kafka setup. So first of all, let's set up with the Kafka. Let's set up with the Zookeeper setup. So to install Zookeeper, so we'll do one thing. So there is a direct URL here. So we are downloading Confluent community. Here it is 6.1 link. I think right now this link won't be available because right now the latest version is 6.2. Let me do one thing. Instead of hitting this link, I will do one thing. I will go to google.com. I will do Confluent community. Community means it's a free version. So Confluent community install. That's it. Just type like that. And if we just scroll down, yeah, there is some link called manual installing using zip and tar archive, which is a Confluent documentation. Let's click this. This is the right link where we have to go. Now, this is a Confluent page. Now, in this, there are all the things will be there. So, Confluent installing using zip and tar archive. And if you click here, it's a Ubuntu and Debian packages. If you need to install on Debian packages using apt-get, this is the thing you have to use. But for RHL and CentOS, this is the process. Our thing is ours is your RHL, right? Our Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and this is the system. This is the thing what we need to install. But here RHL, it's a system D. We don't need system D. I think we'll go to zip and tar. Yeah, perfect. See, there are two things. To get the software, Confluent platform will be there, on Confluent platform using Confluent community components. The thing is, we need Confluent community components, which is a freeware, which is a open source. Okay, so if you see the tar file, there is a this is the URL. You see the URL is 6.2, which is the latest version. So for example, if tomorrow Confluent releases its community edition 6.3, then automatically this link will be updated as 6.3. So they will update it. So what I will do is, I will copy this link from HTTP, and in the browser, I will paste that. That's all. So that, see, Confluent community tar is getting downloaded. Now in my Windows machine, in my system, I'm downloading my Confluent community. But right now I already have this software in my machine, so I'm canceling it. So if I go here, if I go to F drive in my computer, F drive, Kafka, I will go to Confluent directory. In the Confluent directory, you see there is a directory, Confluent community 620. So I already have downloaded it. Okay. So now let me get this tar package into my Linux machine using SFTP. So again, I will click on SFTP option, and in the home directory, I will upload my Confluent platform. So Kafka, Confluent 620, and then okay. So that will be uploaded to my Linux operating system. So it is getting uploaded. Let's wait till it completes 100%. Perfect. Now 100% is completed. And if I do refresh, see, I can see the software here. Also, if I do ls-lrt, see, I can see content community 620 tar.zz. Okay, fine. We have the software now. So after getting the software, what to do? The thing is, you have to extract it using tar minus xzbf. Okay, here see, it is a content platform 5.5 I have given. It means the documentation is pretty old, but just you have to change the versions. That's it. So if I do tar minus xzbf and then type this tar file, so that Confluent community installation will start in this mission. All the needed package will be extracted. Now see, a directory called Confluent 620 will be installed, and inside this directory, all the related Confluent components, which includes Kafka, schema registry, then a lot of components will be there, right? Everything will be installed. Now Kafka installation is going on. Perfect. So installation is done. If I do ls minus lrt, now I see a directory called confluent 620. So once the installation is done, you can remove this tar file. I don't need this. Done. Now see, I have confluent 620. Now installation is done. Now the thing is, you have to start it. You have to configure the things, and then you have to start. But before configuring the things, let me go inside this directory. Let me see what this directory is having. So if I do, okay, right now we are inside Confluent 620 directory. If I do ls-lrt, see, there are some directories: share, lib, etc, bin, source, readme. So as of now, what we need is we need etc directory, and then we need bin directory. So in the bin directory, the Kafka binaries will be there. For example, if I go to bin directory, now we are in the bin directory. If I do ls minus lrt, if you see here, let me do one ls. If you see here, there are so many commands. All these are Kafka commands, right? So when we go forward, we are going to discuss all the needed commands which are needed for our Kafka administrative perfect. For example, if you see here, Kafka server start, this command will be used to start Kafka server information. Kafka server stop, if you want to stop Kafka, this is the command. Kafka topics, if you want to create a topic, this is the command. And then Zookeeper server start, if you want to start the Zookeeper will be there. If you want to stop the Zookeeper, this is the command. So the thing is, the Confluent community that will include both Kafka related things and then Zookeeper related things, because without Zookeeper, Kafka never work. Okay, now we have the binaries. Perfect. Now I am coming out from the bin directory. If I do ls-lrt, and then there is a etc directory. This etc directory will be having the configurations for both your Kafka and Zookeeper. For example, if I go inside this etc directory, now we are inside etc. If I do ls minus lrt, and then there is something called Kafka directory. Right now, just to go to Kafka directory, forget about the remaining other directories. cd Kafka. Now we are in etc Kafka directory. If I do ls minus lrt, you see there are so many properties files, right? So right now we need only two properties. One is Zookeeper properties. Second thing is server.properties. So this Zookeeper properties will be contain the configuration details of your Zookeeper. Like if you want to configure your Zookeeper, if you want to start your Zookeeper, what is the configuration parameters you have to invoke? So, and this file will contain my Zookeeper configuration details. And then if you go to server.properties, so if you want to start Kafka, what is the configuration parameters you need to invoke? Those parameters, those configurations will be in server.properties file. Okay, so right now we need to we need to look for the Zookeeper properties, because after installing Kafka, the first step we need to do is we need to start the Zookeeper, right? So the thing is, okay, now in order to, okay, now we have extracted our content community platform. Now the thing is, we have to go to the Kafka directory and we have to open zookeeper.properties file, because in order to start the Zookeeper, you need to modify something in the Zookeeper properties file. The thing is, this Zookeeper properties right now we have straight away downloaded from the Confluent website, and this will be common. This will be having some common properties, but we have to customize it according to our business requirement, right? So let me open this thing. If I do view Zookeeper properties, See, so this Zookeeper properties will be having few things. This property file is very simple. If you see the first line, licensed to Apache Software Foundation. So by seeing this line, you might be confusing, right? And it is showing the Apache license also. Here, the thing is, we have downloaded Confluent related Kafka, which is Confluent Community 6.2. But now, why it is reflecting Apache license? The reason is very simple. Confluent developed their Kafka on Apache binaries only. Okay, so if you are learning Apache Kafka, if you are learning Confluent Kafka, both are same, absolutely no difference. When I open Zookeeper properties, if you see the first line, licensed to Apache Software Foundation. The thing is, here we have downloaded Confluent software, but Confluent software, it is showing Apache license thing. Why? Because Confluent developed the Kafka by inheriting the Apache Kafka only. So Apache Kafka, Confluent Kafka, both are same, absolutely no difference. But only thing is Confluent is having its own features and Apache is having its own features. That's it, nothing else. But the technicality wise, procedure wise, commands wise, everything is same. No difference between Confluent and Apache, both are same. Okay. Okay. Now in Zookeeper properties, we need to understand about the first property, which is data directory. In the data directory, this data directory means the Zookeeper data will be stored in which directory. So that path, it will be by default, it will be having something called /tmp/Zookeeper. But here we need to have our customized thing, which is /data/zk, because in the prerequisites, that is the file system we have created for Zookeeper. So that when you start Zookeeper, it will make the entries in this file system for your Zookeeper. And the client port is 2181. So always the Zookeeper default port is 2181. So if you want to change the Zookeeper port, you can change it. You can change it here. For example, if I want to use something called 1923, you can definitely use this. But don't change it. Put it like 2181 because it doesn't make any difference. Even in the real time also, we mostly go with the 2181 only. So let's put Zookeeper port as 2181. And then maximum client connections is equal to 0. It means that at a time, how many maximum clients can connect. So for example, if it is having 1, it means only 1 client can connect at a time. If it is having 4, it means at a time only 4 clients can connect. If it is having 20, it means at a time only 20 clients can connect to Kafka. But generally we put it as 0. 0 means infinity clients can connect to this Kafka cluster at the same time. And this is the recommended way. Always use max client connections is equal to 0, because in real time, the meaning of Kafka is it has to handle many connections, billions of connections at the same time. Because the purpose of Kafka is that thing only. It has to handle really tremendous of data from millions of applications. So always put as 0. Don't try to change it. Okay. Yeah. So that's all for now. Now I'm saving the file. WQ exclamatory. Now let me cat and see the properties. For Zookeeper properties, if I cat it, the one we have changed is data directory, data Zookeeper, and then client port 2181, we have not changed it, and then maximum client connections, we have not changed this. Perfect. Now what to do next? The thing is, when we set the data directory, now we are ready to start the Zookeeper. Perfect. Now we can start the Zookeeper. But before starting the Zookeeper, let me show you one thing. If I go to /data/Zookeeper, if I do ls-lrt, right now there is nothing inside data Zookeeper file system. Now let me start the Zookeeper and then let's see what happens. Now the thing what we have to do is, okay, we are ready to start the Zookeeper. So the thing is, we need to go to the binary directory, because in the binary directory only we have this Zookeeper start command, right? So the thing is, right now, okay, we are already into the bin directory, right? So in this bin directory, there is something called Zookeeper server start. So this is the file, this is the command what we need to use to start the Zookeeper. So the thing is, to start the Zookeeper, the command look like this: /. Always when you execute any command, right, you have to execute as a shell script. So Zookeeper server start and then space. So whenever, okay, let's hit enter, let's see what happens. If you see here, whenever I hit when I execute this command and when I enter, it is showing me, hey boss, your command is wrong. The usage of the command is Zookeeper server start, and then you have to use Zookeeper properties. You must invoke the properties of Zookeeper because this properties file we have given the configuration details, right? About the file system, about the client port, about the maximum client connections. So now Kafka will always refers to this properties file, and in this properties file, how you did the configuration based on that your Zookeeper is going to behave. So the command look like this.
Yeah,
So let's go to etc Kafka. Here we have the Zookeeper properties. If I do Zookeeper, so these are the properties. Here we have given only three. So this one we have changed data directory one, and then client port, and then maximum client. But this client port, maximum client, we no need to change because this is a Zookeeper port, which is okay. Even in real time also we use 2181 only. And maximum clients always highly recommended put it 0. It means infinity clients can connect it at the same time.
Yeah.
For example, if I do ls minus lrt, Kafka is having something called server properties.
Oh, in the
So
okay.
if I open the server.properties file, there is something called port number. Port number, okay. Port number is not there in Kafka, but by default, Kafka will run on a port called 9090. If I go up, see, there is something called listeners. So we have to enable this property in Kafka. Now Kafka will start listening on 9092. 9092 is the default port for Kafka. So if any application wants to connect to Kafka, if they want to publish the message, they have to use this port number. So right now, we need Zookeeper only. Perfect. Now to start the Zookeeper, we have to go to the bin directory. So the bin directory is just to go 2 steps back and then go to bin directory. Now we are in content bin directory, ls minus lrt, sorry, ls, and there is something called Zookeeper server start. So /Zookeeper server start, and then we have to invoke our Zookeeper.properties file because I want to start Zookeeper. So our Zookeeper properties file is in home, Ratna, Confluent, and then etc Kafka Zookeeper properties. So always recommended thing is we have to give the entire absolute path. Fine. So if I hit enter, now Zookeeper will start running. See, now you are seeing something on the screen, right? Now it means some logs are recorded for Zookeeper, and there is something, if you see this line, info binding to port 002181. It means your Zookeeper has been successfully started and it is running. All right. Yeah. Now Zookeeper is perfectly running. But the thing is, here right now the control is still not in our control. I mean, the control is not released to us because we have started our Zookeeper as a front end. For example, if I just scroll up, okay, here is the thing, here is the place where we have executed the command. Now logs are starting recorded. Now see, it is invoking the reading the configuration from Zookeeper.properties file, and then this is the client port 2181, and it is doing something, some backend checks, it will do something, and in the bottom of the line it will show you info binding to port 2181. But still the control is not in our hand now because we have started it in the front end. So it is starting in the front end. So the thing is, let me do one thing. If I open the duplicate session, so same server, I'm taking a duplicate session. So let me log in as root. Now let me switch to user called Ratna. Okay. Now if I do ps minus ef Kafka, see, now something called running, Zookeeper is running. For example, if you want to see if Kafka and Zookeeper running or not, you have to use a command called ps-ef Kafka. That's it. Now Zookeeper is running because I can see the process with this ID, right? And Zookeeper is running as Ratna user. So Zookeeper is running. We have started only Zookeeper with this properties file, and it is running fine. But the problem here is, here in this screen we have started Zookeeper as a front end. Whenever we close this session, right, Zookeeper will be auto terminated. It will be auto shut down. For example, I'm just closing this. So one or more sessions currently running. Do you want to close the session? Yes, I want to close. Okay. Now one session is closed. Now if I do ps minus ef Kafka, You see, is Zookeeper is running now? No, because the thing is, the problem when you start any Zookeeper process or Kafka process in the front end, it will be applicable to that particular session only. When you terminate the session or when you exit the session, that's it. Your process will be done, which is not at all a good sign, especially in the real time, right? So the thing is, we have to start it as a
Yeah.
back end. So starting Kafka in the front end, which is not at all a recommended way, because when you terminate the session, that will be gone, right? But the thing is, we have to start a Kafka process or a Zookeeper process as a daemon process. A daemon means it's a back end. This is the highly recommended. It means in the back end, your Kafka will be running. For example, now I'm starting my Zookeeper. So I will go to the bin directory, which is cd home Ratna Confluent bin directory. Now I am going to start my Zookeeper / Zookeeper server start. Now I'm starting as a daemon process. Now I'm invoking my Zookeeper properties file, which is in home Ratna Confluent etc Kafka Zookeeper properties. So I'm starting Zookeeper, and this is my Zookeeper properties. And in between, I am using daemon. In the beginning, we have not used daemon. It means we are starting as a front end. But here I am using daemon, which means I'm starting in the back end. It means in the back end, it will keep running. Although you exit the session, it will keep on running. That's the meaning of this thing. If I hit enter, see, now control is released. Now it is not showing you any logs in upfront. Now control is released to you. Now you can type anything, right? But in the back end, I am sure this must have been started. For example, if I do ps-ef Kafka, now see, my Zookeeper is running. You see, Zookeeper properties. It means Zookeeper is now running with this process ID as a Ratna service account. Okay, now it is running in the back end. Although you exit the session, absolutely there is no problem. Now my Zookeeper is perfectly running, right? But the logs that will be recorded in the back end. For example, if you want to see the logs for this, the thing is, you just come out from the bin directory. Now there is some directory called logs. Okay, go to this logs directory, do ls-lrt. There is something called server.log. This is the file where your Zookeeper related log and Kafka log both will be recorded in this server.log. So if I do tail -f and then server.log, you see, this is the log which we see. This is recorded recently, 6:30. For example, if I do date, now the time is 6:30 1 p.m. So just 1 minute back, this has been recorded. It means at the back end, our logs will be recorded. So everything will be done in the back end. In the front end, there would be no disturbance. You can do anything. Your Zookeeper will be up and running forever now. It won't down until you manually terminate it. The final thing is we need to start Kafka. Okay. In order to start Kafka, we have to go to the Kafka directory and we have to open the server.properties in the etc Kafka. So we have to update some properties. So I will tell you what are those. So let me go to etc Kafka. Now we have to open server.properties. Now we don't need Zookeeper properties. It is already up and running. Now we have to open Zookeeper.properties. In the Zookeeper properties, right? So here we need to modify 5 properties. So the first property we need to modify is broker.id. So this is the property file. This is a configuration of a broker that will display what is the broker ID. For example, in the Kafka cluster, the Zookeeper identify your brokers, your Kafka brokers, not with their names, but with their IDs. So obviously, broker ID will be having something called 0. If you see, this is the attribute. So the first thing is we have to change this. Okay, let me explain one by one. So broker ID means what is the ID of your broker that is running in your Kafka cluster. So all your Zookeeper identified your brokers with their IDs only. So this is mandatory. Number 2, log.directory. Oh, hold on. Let me show you one thing. I forgot that. The thing is, before starting Zookeeper, in the Zookeeper directory, there was nothing, right? But now Zookeeper is running, right? So now if you see in the Zookeeper directory, ls-lrt, there is a directory called version-2. So in this version-2 directory, there are something called snapshot file. So this snapshot always stores the Zookeeper related data, like whatever the data, whatever the information that is updated, that will be updated in the snapshot.o file. Okay, so right now there is much information. It is just started. So that is the reason it is showing something like snapshot.0, which is fine. Now let me go to Confluent, etc Kafka, and then server.properties. Okay. Now log directory means, okay, where should the Kafka logs should be recorded? So you remember in the prerequisites we have separately created a file system called /data/Kafka for our Kafka file system. We have to mention that. It means whatever the message that being published, that will be stored here. Okay, first of all, let me change broker ID to 1. I don't want to 0. I will put it as 1. And then if I scroll down, there is something called log directories. See, by default, it will be something called /tmp/Kafka logs, but I will put it as /data/Kafka because this file system I have already created for my Kafka. Fine. The next thing is zookeeper.connect. Okay. Now the main thing for Kafka is, in order to run Kafka, it has to connect to a Zookeeper, because without Zookeeper, Kafka cannot run. Now the thing is, which Zookeeper server you should connect? This Kafka should connect to which Zookeeper? So we have to mention that. Right now in this case, our Zookeeper running on the same mission, right? So always put like a local host. So if I come down, there is something called zookeeper.connect. There would be many configurations, will come one by one, but right now, yeah. So zookeeper.connect. By default, it will be localhost 2181. And our Zookeeper is also running in the same mission, in the same local mission as it with a 2181 port, which is fine. But for example, if your Zookeeper running at something called some 1923 port, you have to mention something called 1923 here. Like in which port your Zookeeper is running, you have to mention that. But here it is running as 2181. So let's put 2181. Perfect. Now listeners. Now in server.properties file, what this listener will say is at which port your broker is configured. That is what the listener is. Right now, if I scroll up, there is something called listener properties. See, there is something called a listeners. So what this listener will do is, this property, this configuration explains how this broker is configured, at which port this broker is listening to. So let me uncomment this, and always by default Kafka runs on a 9092 port. If you want to change it, you can change it. If you want to put it as 9095, you can absolutely go. If you want to change it something called 1873, that's fine, you can go. But by default, Kafka runs on a port called 9092, right? So just uncomment this, that's it. And the plain text means right now this Kafka is not at all a secure Kafka. It's like a normal, anyone can connect, anyone can do, anyone can publish, anyone can consume, because no security. So that is what the plain text. This is the listener name. Right now your listener name is plain text. Plain text means not a secure port. That's all. Okay, so right now I'm just uncommenting this. I'm putting as 9092 as a plain text. Perfect. Now advertiser listeners. Okay, advertiser listeners, something like whenever any client wants to connect to Kafka, which host name and which IP address they have to use. That is the thing here. So for example, in advertiser listener, whenever any client wants to connect, so they will, when they connect to this Kafka broker, right, at the back end, this Kafka broker will give this host name and this port number to client, so that client understand, okay, my Kafka is running on this machine and this is the port. So I have to give that machine. Okay, so right now, advertiser listener, you can ignore. So don't give anything. See, here is the thing for advertiser listener. Right now, don't give anything. So this advertiser listener, I am going to explain in a full-fledged way in the client server architecture setup, not right now. Okay.
Okay.
So right now, forget about advertiser listeners because it is not needed, because we have no separate clients, we have no external client, nothing. So forget about advertiser listener. We'll discuss in the client server architecture setup of Kafka about the advertiser listener. All right. All right. Perfect. So we have changed to 4 things. Number 1, broker.id to 1, log.directory to /data/Kafka, zookeeper.connect is equal to localhost to 181 because Zookeeper is running on the same host, and then listener is equal to plain text, which means it's a non-secured port, and then the port number of Kafka, which is by default 9092. So advertiser listener, we have not changed it. Forget about it right now. Now I am saving my file. Right. Now let's try to cat the file. Let's verify the things. If I do cat, if I scroll up, so the first property we have changed is hold on. The first property we have changed is broker.id is equal to 1. Perfect. Now the listeners plain text 9092, which is fine. Now if I scroll down, there is something called a log directory, which is /data/Kafka, which is perfectly fine. Now finally zookeeper.connect, which is here. Perfect. Everything is fine. Now we are ready to start Kafka. But before starting Kafka, if I say ll/Kafka, I want to see what is the content inside /data/Kafka. Right now, nothing. Total files are 0. Right? In data
Right.
Kafka. All right.
Yes, yes.
Now I am starting my Kafka. So to start Kafka, we have to go to the bin directory /bin. Now see, we are into the Confluent bin directory. Now if I do ls, so to start Kafka, there is a command called Kafka server start. It would be here. See, Kafka server start. So the command look like this: / always we have the shell script Kafka server start, and always use -daemon. Instead of giving daemon, let's start in the front end because I want to show you logs. So I am starting it in the front end. So home, Ratna, Confluent, etc, Kafka, and server.properties. We have to give the right properties file. For Kafka, we have to always use server.properties. Now I am starting it in the front end so that logs will be displayed for us in the screen. Hit enter so that Kafka will start. Let's wait. See, now it is reading something in the logs. Now see, some properties are loaded. Now it is starting. Let's wait. Still it is not started. Still it is starting. Still starting. Not started. Hold on. See, now you see this line. Kafka server ID is equal to 1 started. It means now your Kafka is running with the Confluent 6.2 Confluent community service. It's a Confluent community 6.2. Okay. Now this is the broker ID which is started. And if I just scroll up, now let me show you the logs. What happened? Now see, it is registering something. And if you see the first line, info connecting to Zookeeper on which host, localhost 181, right? So Kafka, with the help of Zookeeper connect property, it is trying to connect to this host and it is trying to connect to this port. And this port, it is already identified. So in this port, right now Zookeeper 3.5 version is running. So here 3.5 is, it's a Zookeeper version. Okay. And here the host name is mohan1.training.com. So this is my host name, which I have said. So right now you can forget about it. No need to concentrate on this. Now if I scroll down, now see, if you see here, Zookeeper client Kafka server connected. If you see here, complete with the server. So it has established a session to 2181 port, which is in the same mission. So that it gives some confirmation. Yes, I am able to successfully identify the Zookeeper on this host at port number 2181. Perfect. Zookeeper is running. Now it is loading the server.properties file. So server.properties really having so many properties, so many configurations. But here we have given only 4 properties. Number 1, broker.id, which is equal to 1, which has been taken. And then listeners. Come to the listeners. See, listeners is equal to plain text 9092. It means this broker is running at 9092, which is a non-secure port. And then log.directory, you see, /data/Kafka, which is taken. And then finally, Zookeeper connect. If you scroll down, it will be in alphabetical order. So if you see Zookeeper connect is equal to localhost 218. Perfect. It has taken all the properties, and finally it has come on, and finally it has starting something and doing something, and finally it has started. That's what it is happening. Understand? Now you might be having a doubt if my Kafka is running or not, although it is showing the logs, but these logs are in the front end. So the thing is, as we're in the front end, we can't execute any command here. So I will do one thing. I will open another duplicate session. I will start from there. Let me switch to let me switch to Ratna. And if I do ps -ef 5, let me clear the screen first. If I do ps -ef 5 grep Kafka, now see Zookeeper is running, and now additionally Kafka is also running. Now see, with Ratna there are two processes running. One is Zookeeper process in the machine. In the same machine, Kafka process. It means now Kafka and Zookeeper both are running in this machine. Now your Kafka single node cluster is up and running. Right?
Right.
Now the thing is, here we have started Kafka as a front end. But if I do Control C or if I close this session, your Kafka will shut down. For example, I'm closing this session. Yes. Now see, if I do ps-ef grep Kafka, okay, still it is running, but it will shut down. Hold on. See, now only Zookeeper is running. The Kafka is automatically shut down because you have started in the front end, and in the front end, your connection is gone. You lost the connection. Done. So always highly recommended is start your Kafka as a backend. And to do that, we have to go to content bin directory /Kafka server start. Always use -daemon and then give your server.properties absolute path home Ratna Confluent etc Kafka server.properties. Hit enter so that all the logs will be invoked in the backend. Okay, now if you do ps-ef 5 grep Kafka, now see Kafka is running and then Zookeeper is running. Now this won't terminate. This Kafka service won't terminate until you manually shut down it. Okay, now if you want to see the logs, the thing is you have to go to the logs directory. So go to this Confluent logs directory, do ls-lrt, and then open server.log, which is updated at 6:48. If I do date, right now 6:48, it means right now it is updated. So if I do tail-f server.log, see, Kafka is now started, which is this information recorded just now. So always logs recorded in the backend in the server.log file. So now we have started our Kafka, we have started the Zookeeper, and we have started our Kafka. Now Kafka is running as a single node Kafka cluster. And if you go to /data/Kafka, before starting Kafka, there was nothing in this file system. But if I do ls-lrt, now see there are 5 files: cleaner offset checkpoint, replication offset checkpoint, metadata properties, log start offset checkpoint, recovery point offset checkpoint. So first of all, I will explain about metadata properties file now today. So if I open this metadata properties file, right now metadata properties is having some data. Remaining all 4 files having not much data. So if I cat metadata properties file, this metadata properties file will be having some details called what is the ID of your broker, which is 1, and then what is your Kafka cluster ID. The thing is, whenever you start any Kafka, right, what the Zookeeper will do is it will give some name to your cluster, and the cluster name will be added in the metadata properties. And always Kafka Zookeeper recognize your cluster with this ID. So now in this cluster ID there is one Kafka broker, which is this one. So with this, okay, we can verify the Kafka like this, and with this Kafka single node installation is done. So Kafka single node we have successfully installed. So if you want to verify if Kafka is running or not, simply you can say ps-f Kafka and it will show. So that's all. It will show how many Kafka processes are running. That now it's a full-fledged single node in the development server, which is fine. In your development environment, single node Kafka cluster, which is perfectly. So with this, we have successfully completed the single node installation. VMware Workstation 15.